skill discusses the role of the program manager. And if we were to ask our superhero of a program manager here what he does, well, the answer could be, surely, well, what do? I manage programs, which arguably isn't that useful. But actually, considering what's involved in managing programs is going to set us up well for the rest of this skill on the program manager role. And to help us with that, I've lifted the definition of program management from the PMI's standard. You can see it here. So it says, program management is the application of knowledge, skills and principles to a program to achieve the program objectives and to obtain benefits and control not available by managing program components individually. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I read these definitions, I can appreciate that they are a concise and complete definition of something. And I say to myself, well, I speak English, I understand all of those words, but I can't always get my head around what that actually means. So I would like us to unpick this a bit further, starting with the knowledge, skills and principles bits here. So when we say knowledge, yes, if the program manager has got some knowledge and experience in the program's areas of focus, that is going to be beneficial. Now, we're not saying that as a program manager, you need to have detailed technical knowledge of how to perform everybody's job within the program, you know, every task that's involved in every project. No, you don't need to be able to do all of that yourself, but having some knowledge and experience and some interest and passion in the program's area of focus is going to be beneficial, and it will give you the edge, I think, over those program managers that don't have industry knowledge or some kind of experience in that particular field. So that's one aspect of the knowledge that would be useful as a program manager. But also a good knowledge of the organisation's strategy. Now, of course, this does rely on the people above you in the food chain, as it were, sharing what the organisation's strategy is, so that as a programme manager, you can use that knowledge to ensure that benefits are going to align to the organisation's strategy. And then you'll see the third thing here, the program manager should have a strong working knowledge of the practices and processes and techniques and whatnot of program management. And of course, that's going to be the focus of the rest of this course. But also project management, because of course the program manager is going to be coordinating the project managers that are managing the projects within the program, and also to a degree, which I haven't got written up here, they need some understanding of portfolio management, especially if the program isn't sitting inside a portfolio, because in that case the program management activities will need to adopt some activities which would normally fall into the field of portfolio management. But I don't want to overflow too much into that on this course, because our focus is of course program management. But anyway, next on our list here is going to be skills. So the next video in this skill is going to be around some of the skills that is useful for a program manager. So that's going to be things like communication skills, negotiation skills, facilitation skills, etc. And this is one of the reasons why I love the roles of program manager and project manager, because you develop a fantastic array of these workplace skills that will put you in good stead pretty much for any job role that you might ever want to take on. So as I say, we'll come back to some of those in the next video. And then principles. So the PMI standard for program management does list a number of principles. There are 8 that it will outline, and you can see them here, which are designed, they say, to provide guidance for the people involved in programs. Now, we're going to be coming back to these another time. But the idea is they're providing this guidance with regards to the actual activities which are going to be performed in the field of program management. So stakeholders, benefits realisation, synergy, team of teams, change, leadership, risk and governance. My goodness, it does sound rather fabulous, but as I said, we'll come back to that another time. But there is more. The PMI's definition of program management continues by saying that program management involves aligning program components and resources to ensure that program goals are met, benefits are optimally delivered, and risks are effectively managed. Now, we will talk about program benefit identification and realisation another time. And we'll also talk about program risk management actually as well another time. But this is the strategic stuff, isn't it? It's that wider perspective that the program manager has across the projects and whatnot that make up the program. It's that view across the overall activity going on in the program to make sure that it aligns with the organisational strategy. Oh, and also at this stage, let's just remember that when we use the term program components, we're meaning all of the projects within the program, Also, if there are any sub-programs within the program, but also operations and any other program activities which span all of the components of the program. So that might be things like finance and procurement and whatnot. So I will be using this term program components as we progress to mean all of these things just here. And of course, it's the program manager who is doing all of this program managing. And this definition from the PMI goes on to say that program management is led by a program manager who is the person authorised by the performing organisation to lead the team or teams responsible for achieving program objectives. So yes, it is a leadership role, isn't it? So reading through that definition again, you might want to read it from top to bottom again yourself. Hopefully that's feeling a little bit more comfortable. But I am aware that if you are new to this and if you're new to working with some of this textbook content, because sometimes real life feels very different to how it's displayed in the textbooks. So I am aware that sometimes I get people say to me, oh, this all feels like, nebulous fluff to me at the moment. These textbook definitions. I understand the words, but I can't put it into real world examples. So can you give me some examples of the kinds of activities that the program manager will be doing day to day? So I'm just going to give you a few examples here. So I've got some listed under the heading of practical stuff here, but note that these are just a few examples. This is not an exhaustive list. Of course, as we progress through this course, we're going to be covering all of this in much more detail, but let's just go through some examples to try and put some of that definition into context. So the first bullet point here under my practical stuff heading is guiding and directing the program component managers. So it's acting in a leadership role to those project managers who are managing the projects within the program. It is a leadership role. So the program manager is providing clarity to all of the managers managing the bits within the program to maybe standardize what methodologies are being used, what frameworks, what processes that we're being used, what reporting we're using. The program manager is providing an environment where those program components, so those projects, can be successful. So they are aligning processes that are going to be used across those programs and acting in a management leadership role for those project managers working within the program. And then, of course, coordinating all of the other program activities across the program components. So as I said, that's going to be things like procurement and finance activities that kind of span all of the different program components. Of course, communicating with key stakeholders is going to be a key role, but they'll be communicating with stakeholders at a program level. So providing integrated updates on program components, not necessarily detail on how individual projects are progressing. The program managers themselves will be very interested in that. But in order to update stakeholders on program progress, then it'll be an update integrated across all of those different program components. They're going to be working very hard to manage dependencies between those different program components, because some of the outcomes from some projects will be kind of feeding into what other projects need. So it's taking a step back, having that oversight to understand all of the different components of the program, how they slot together in that big jigsaw puzzle, and therefore understanding the impact of a change or a delay or something to one particular piece of the jigsaw puzzle that has dependencies. How is that going to affect the other bits of the jigsaw puzzle that depends upon it? And there's going to be an awful lot of time spent resolving issues across those different program components. So if the scope changes for one particular program component, how does that affect the other dependencies? What about costs, schedule, resources, quality, risk? All of these things are changing, they're developing all of the time, they're leading to issues either within the individual project component or creating issues because of the change in other program components. And then, of course, we have the strategic stuff. So the program manager needs to be very clear about how the outcomes of all of the different programs components are going to be supporting the organisation's strategy. Because senior management will be saying to the program manager, well, maybe not using these exact words, but maybe it's going to be things like, okay, just remind me why your program is important. So the program manager needs to be really clear about how and why the outcomes of the components of their program and the benefits that the program is delivering, why that is important to the business. And those benefits need to be monitored as the program progresses, as organisations' strategy and objectives evolves, the program also needs to evolve. So that's the reminder of some of that strategic view that the program manager can provide. So I think as your key takeaway, let me show that definition to you again. I suggest you take a moment just to read that through yourself and check that you have absorbed it. And next up, we're going to take a look at some of the skills required to be successful in the role of Program Manager. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from CBT Nuggets. Oh, and also, if you're new to IT or are interested in an IT career, visit cbtnuggets.com and sign up for a free, yes, free, a free trial.